I had an interest in sewing back when I was a kid, and my grandma taught me the basics of embroidery, and my mom taught me the basics of the sewing machine, and then the rest is self-taught. How I got into sewing was my mom used to make my Halloween costumes for me when I was a kid, and they were one of a kind and unique, really well thought through. So back in the day, so I guess the 90s, when I used to dress up, it was all the rage to go to the local shopping center or mall and in your costume and parade around the storefronts in the indoor enclosed mall. She would make my costumes and I loved them. I loved them. They were the best. People used to go out of their way to compliment me. When there was a costume competition or contest to enter into, not to toot my own horn, but I usually won it. They were just 10 times better than any of the really cheap, basically one-time use kids costumes that are made out of like really cheap satins and lamaze and stuff like that. They were actually done out of really nice fabrics. Or they were, the last one that I remember was actually done from a bridesmaid's dress that was fitted down to my size and then decorated and made over into a dress. But I'll have to insert the pictures of what they looked like because I had the best time in them. They were the funnest costumes that I ever remembered. I don't actually remember too many costumes that my mom did not make. But in the last couple of years, I think I wore 2 of the same costumes 2 years in a row because I was able to wear them 2 years, size-wise. But yeah, they were so much fun. So fast forward 10 years, my mom and I were in the pattern section of the craft store, and I had noticed the Simplicity pattern books and was going through them, and I came across the Civil War patterns. And I came across the Simplicity Fashion Historian by Martha McCain patterns, and I fell in love with these 2 patterns. They are really beat up. I mean, I've never cut them out. I've never even cut them out, but the pattern envelopes are really beat up. Like, I've loved them and handled them that much and just wished and salvitated that I could actually make something like this. But back when I bought these with my mom, I did not, she and I both did not have the sewing skills at the time to execute these patterns. And I do have the skills now, but maybe just not the time or the purpose. I don't have a reason to dress up in Civil War costume, even though I wish I did. Even for Halloween, my husband and I don't ever go anywhere for Halloween, so it's just not really a very practical expenditure of money or my time. So years later, after buying those patterns, years later, I found a seamstress, a local seamstress, that I had taken some modern clothing to have her alter it for me, and she did a fine job on the things that I had her alter. I can't complain about the work that she did for me, but I took the pattern. This one, it's the 9761. Yep, I took this pattern to have her make the jacket for me, and she said she'd do it for me, but when it came down to making the project, she didn't want to do it. She said she would, but then backed out of it. And I still don't know exactly why she didn't want to make it for me, other than it was maybe above her skills at the time, or she didn't have the time or didn't want to take the time, and that could be what it was. So I went back and got my stuff from her, and I left. And I never used her services again. So from that day onward, I vowed that I would learn to sew myself, and that I would not rely on other people, or at least a local seamstress like her, to sew things for me. So I started with small projects, a couple of aprons, a few dresses that I then wore to work, and they were okay at the time. They were not very good quality. My skills have since then advanced, I would say quite a bit, but they were okay for the time. I don't have any of those dresses anymore just because they got, you know, just washed so many times and tore up. And back in 2011, I ended up opening up my own Etsy shop, and I was selling reproduction, but historically, as historically accurate as I could get, but still modern conveniences, historical hats for costumes. And I had come across a YouTube video about making a Regency hat or making a historical costume hat, and it was so much fun to do that I wanted to continue to reproduce these hats, but had no reason to continue to make the hats. I didn't wear them, I didn't do any reenactment, I didn't have anybody to make them for, so I decided to open up my Etsy shop and sell them on there. I had invested in a couple of other hat patterns to you know, kind of up my game, to invest, I guess, further in the business, and I was producing fairly decent hats. It is still something that I could pick back up if I wanted to. I still love to make historical costume hats, but I got really burnt out with it, or that I couldn't come up with any new ideas or any new designs to make hats. So I ended up taking a year off, and then I actually closed the business a couple of years ago. So now currently I work on my own retro clothes. I'm thinking about reopening an Etsy shop to sell retro inspired clothes. So I think there'd be a lot more design opportunity in the retro clothing than there was in the historical costume hats. So that's a little bit of a peek into what the future might hold. As far as like sewing, I don't think I'm gonna ever get burnt out on sewing. And if it is, it's only for a couple weeks at a time, and then I hop right back into it. But I have some other video ideas coming up as well, so I hope you guys stay tuned.